club this month, and we are here greeting you from Sparta, Tennessee at the Coffee Collective. And up in Minnesota, we have the rest of our crew, the Desron, at Here Coffee Legally. So I'm handing it over to Dylan now, episode of the Merlin, and he will introduce our book for you.
Okay, this is Paladin doing the partial video intro. Danielle did the first part. I'm touching base with the second part. This is the Javelin Book Club, and Ziggy and I and David basically were tasked with hosting. But this is everybody at the table that you're seeing right now. Very important. They're all wonderful people, and yes, and very good. And the book, its author is Christopher D. Schmitz. The book is Dekkers' Dozen, The Last Watchman. And basically, the overview of the book is it's confusing as heck. Okay, so Dekkers' Dozen was very confusing because it involved time travel. At the beginning of the book, we're introduced to Decker Knight, who is the basically head of the crew, called Dekkers' Dozen. Oh, the book's titled Dekkers' Dozen, The Last Watchman. And it turns out that Decker Knight's family are part of an elite group of people called the Watchmen. They're trying to preserve ancient biblical, I assume it's biblical truth, because there was a lot of biblical imagery throughout the book. Basically he has a crew of 11 people that follow him around. Originally it was on the Rickshaw Crusader, and then it ended up on the Salvation, a big ship called the Salvation. Now my supposition is, knowing Christopher Schmitz happens to be of Christian worldview, I'm thinking that he worked in all those phrases intentionally. Crusader, Knight, Salvation. I'm thinking all those things weren't completely coincidental. Plus he brings in a prophet from the Old Testament called Ezekiel. I think he worked those things into the story. That's my thought. I did ask Christopher if Decker Knight was actually a paladin class. He said no, he's more like an inquisitor. So basically they travel through time trying to protect everybody, and it gets very confusing, and a lot of things get messed up. Whole solar systems are wiped out, and then at the very end we're left with the reality shaping possibility, and I'm not going to spoil the ending. How's that?
No one expects the Inquisition.
So anyway, Danielle, do you have questions or something to start, like conversation starter?
With any story with time travel, it's kind of hard to keep track of what's going on, and if the continuity of a story really goes with itself. Because there's different versions of time travel. There's time travel where it resets the timeline. There's time travel where anything you do actually brings about the future. So, how well do you think the outsider, what type of time travel do you think this is for?
My thought on the time travel was that they were taking great pains to not change history, because every time they went back, Ezekiel, who's apparently like Virgil in Dante's Inferno, is leading Decker through this thing. He's leading him through the big machine, which we're supposing is either, you could call it God or higher power or universal consciousness. He's leading him through this universal machine to get places, and he keeps telling him, no, we can't do that because you didn't do that before. He keeps repeating that throughout the entire book. So my supposition is that they were taking great efforts to not screw up the timeline, even though there were multiple realities. That's my thought. I did actually have that question. I posed it to myself. So Danielle, did you have something else?
No.
Does anyone have any comments they would like to add on to this?
Paladin.
Yes?
You're the one hosting today, so you get to come up with the questions.
Oh, the onus is on me? I thought I was hogging the microphone. I was trying to be benevolent, generous.
So you're trying to be Danielle.
I was trying to be Danielle. Yeah. So anyway,
This guy kind of feels like the Doctor Strange of like space, sort of.
who, Decker does or Ezekiel? Oh, Christopher Schmitz,
Yeah.
the author? I don't know. I haven't read any of his other works. This is the first one that I've ever read, so I don't know how that works. But it did have kind of a Doctor Strange thing
Right.
with the way they were manipulating time and the way they were coming in and out. I was really struck by Decker having to go back in time and not stop the execution of his pregnant wife. I thought that was heart-wrenching. That tore at me a lot.
Yeah, that must have been really, really difficult. I mean, how do you get by with something like that? It's history, so you have to allow it, but then again, you have this urge to stop things in the past that you wish you could have changed.
Like, according to his rules, we couldn't have killed Hitler. And we couldn't have sent the Terminator back for John Connor. Either one of those things we couldn't have done. So, I don't know what happens if you make a different choice. The ending of the book confused me because if we're not changing things that happened in the past, and Ezekiel is coming from a different point in time where he sees it all, then how is it that we had the ending that we had where basically somebody hit the universal reset button? I don't get that. That's a question I will have to ask Christopher. And if you'd like to ask Christopher, you can do that by coming to a convention in the mid-Minnesota area, because he's almost at every one, and he dresses like Wolverine and you can't miss him. He looks just like Wolverine.
I don't know if I want to find him then.
He's closer to the size of Wolverine than Hugh Jackman.
Wow.
Wolverine's like short. In
Yeah,
the comics.
Wolverine is like 5'3", I think, in the comics. Well, Hugh Jackman's over 6 foot, so Christopher Schmitz is far closer in size. Did anybody like the book? Get a show of hands or maybe voices.
I would like to read it again.
You would like to read it again?
I would.
Wow, that's kind of an amazing pronunciation.
Well, you see, I felt like I didn't quite catch everything the first time around, so I feel like it'd be good to go through it again sometime and kind of pick up the things that maybe you missed.
I'm with
didn't know
Amanda.
how he was writing it, what was happening, wasn't a flow, and he didn't figure that out right away.
No, I agree with that. For me, anyway, I read it fairly fast, and I have to admit I did not finish the entire thing. So I skimmed the last maybe quarter of it. But yeah, not only that, I think I would have missed things. I was wondering about a slightly different interpretation about that Decker wasn't supposed to change anything. But did that mean that he shouldn't or that he couldn't? Or do you think it's a combination?
That's an excellent question.
Do you think maybe it was a combination of both things?
Well, he never did change anything, but we don't know if that means he wasn't capable of changing anything. If that would have splintered off to a whole other timeline or what that would have done.
Well,
Yeah. Go ahead.
see here, I think that when you mess with the history and different timelines in the past, you could end up messing up the timeline and create different paradigms.
Right, it'd be like the butterfly effect. Butterfly wings one place, cause a typhoon somewhere else.
Well, I think you're right.
Exactly.
I thought at some point Ezekiel almost said as much, maybe in a different way.
Yeah,
But like I said, I was kind of
he
reading
gave
fairly
them
fast.
many warnings. But yeah, and then Prognosticon turns out to pretty much be an embodiment of all evil. Basically wanting to kill God. That's a quote from the book. He says that he wants to kill God. And
An entity that you can't even visibly or physically interact with.
he thought maybe if he killed the book he would kill God, but I don't know. That's it. But Prognosticon, they end up saying throughout the book, eventually it's revealed that he's not really one of that arboreal people. He's not really human. He's really something else, and they called him a demon, which I'm inclined to agree. Prognosticon wasn't even his real name. When it got down to the demon name, there was a completely different name, and I don't remember what it was. But the demon announced himself as a different name at the end.
I can't remember.
It's
what
not
it
on the
is.
back, right, where we can cheat?
Yeah, it's somewhere.
Where's the Cliff Notes version? We could just go to the page and find it. So there was the arboreals, there was the cleansing people that were basically the hippie, tree-loving people that didn't want any tree-hugging. They didn't want any death under any circumstances until you kill one of their leaders. Then suddenly they get vilely evil and violent. And then there was the love, sort of love story between Vesuvius and Dekker, which I thought was, throughout the story, it frustrated me because they kept having near misses. They kept having an opportunity to get together, and then for some reason they would never go any further than a conversation or a touch on a shoulder or a wrestling match in the middle of a fisticuff thing they were doing, like a training thing.
I go see that.
Yeah, yeah. They got close, but they still never. I think there was one kiss in the entire thing. So anyway, I think Christopher Schmitz is great. I wanted to see how his mind worked. I wanted to see how his writing came out, and he's incredibly prolific. He has over 30 books, I think, that he has published. He's been very effective in getting his books out there. They're all self-published, and he's got a book about self-publishing. If anybody out there wants to do a self-publishing thing, Christopher Schmitz has a book to tell you how to go about it.
I think I'd be interested in that.
I'm into.
He's incredibly nice.
So anyway, what was the most exciting thing in the book, and for the people that are either on video or sitting here? What was your most exciting part of the book?
I like space action.
Space action.
I'm a man of action.
What about you, Ziggy? What did you think was your favorite? What? I can't hear you.
Fights.
The fights.
Right?
Oh, that's right. She lost her voice. I keep asking her to be louder. Not fair. What about you? What'd you like?
Yeah, I think the space battles, and then leading up to what was going to happen, like toward the end of the book, like, you know, who is going to get taken over, like the entire Earth, the universe, everything. Would they take down evil or not?
David, did you get a chance to read? This is your copy we're holding, right?
Yeah,
What did you think?
I really was a fan of like time traveling stories, so I really enjoyed it. Time traveling segments.
That's cool. We're going to try to get this book autographed.
Really?
Yes, because we'll see Christopher inevitably somewhere. He may be at LionCon.
Do you think he'll be at the convention next week or next month?
That's a great question. That's one I'll have to ask him. To see if Christopher Schmitz will be next month. This is a question for you, by the way. Next month, the book club for July would fall on the same date as the Comic-Con at the library. I have Kathy's name written next to it. So are we even doing book club next month?
Or are we just doing it there?
Next month we are doing the Comic-Con at the library, and then the following month is the book club meeting.
So the book that you announced for next time, Short Victorious War, will be for August.
Yes. So
Okay.
you got 2 months to read it.
2 months to read it. You got advance warning. So it was pre-selected. Yeah, but we can't give Paladin too many of his particular choices on books because that would be wrong to everybody else to only pick my favorites.
Paladin, everybody gets a turn to pick one, so
Everybody does?
everybody gets a turn. So we're working our way back around now.
So about 9 months from now I get to pick again?
Start thinking about it.
I'm going to write it on my calendar.
I'm still eager for my pick to show up.
One thing to remember is that since we are, like you said, we're a science fiction book club, and we are a book club around David Weber's books. It's been a long time since we did a David Weber book.
True.
We're
That's
getting back into his books.
yeah. Yeah. So
Sorry.
I want the cats.
she wants tree cats. If we can throw in tree cats.
No, I just keep reading over and over.
Oh,
Cookies.
guys, I have a message from one of your local crew, actually, when she called us. Captain of the Lodestone, Julie Chase. That's probably what you heard, Paladin. She called
yeah, Ziggy, I, and David will be out next month, so you guys will have to take care of the Comic-Con. So Danielle, you're gonna have to drive back.
Come home.
Hey, John, you and I should go and bring the camera.
Well, I'm definitely going. I gotta film it though? Okay. Sure.
Well,
We didn't do the last one, and I feel bad about that.
Which one were we supposed? Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Spring
that
Con.
one.
I got yelled
That
at for not
one.
filming that.
my favorite part of the book was they consistently did heroic and noble sacrifice throughout the. Obviously, I like the whole worldview that Christopher has and his perspective on things religiously, philosophically, and all that. But in terms of this book, I think my favorite thing was the noble sacrifice, because over and over people were willing to give their lives up for the greater good, to try to save the human race, to try to save the world, try to save reality. I don't know how many times Decker tried to kill himself and didn't, but he kept trying. It was the noble sacrifice that everybody was basically trying to. Everybody was trying to do something for a greater cause greater than themselves. So, what do you guys think the reliquary was? No, the reliquary had the potential to end everything if you put 3 shells in it. You put 2 shells in it, destroyed lots of bad things. Put 1 shell in it, destroyed everything in a line of sight. And yet it was an antique type weapon. It was a relic that he had held on to. I just was wondering if anybody had any idea what powered it, what made it work, anything like that.
Well, do you think the form of the weapon was just so that you could understand and see it, but that's not really what it would be like in reality?
That's a great
You know what I mean?
insight. So maybe it's something else entirely.
But
it
it's
was
just made to be something you could recognize. A person, a human.
A human would recognize
Yeah,
it
could
as-
use or hold or.
Yeah,
I'm guessing you.
yeah.
I kind of felt like something along those lines is something the ancients made, and that humans these days, or people in general these days, aren't really supposed to remember how to use it.
Excellent point.
Yeah.
We have some brilliant people. You got to promote those people. What was your favorite character?
Orko. Oh, wrong show. Sorry.
Wow.
I think Vesuvius, probably, just because
She-
she's a kick, you know what, female, so.
Little
That's
ball
why I
of
like
fire
her, yes.
compared to a mountain, a volcanic mountain.
Along the lines of Captain Marvel.
Yeah, okay. So was she your favorite too?
I like a strong female character.
That's cool. David, what do you think? Vesuvius?
Oh,
Universal.
I know.
It's universal. Everybody thinks Vesuvius is cool. Okay, and let's see. What else? There was the guy that kept blowing things up. Was his name Guy?
Yeah, I think it was Guy or.
Guy was the guy that liked to blow things
Yes.
up.
honestly, I would like to vote for changing his name to Vinny,
Vinny?
like from Atlantis, The Lost Empire.
Okay. I'm
That's
gonna
more
act
money
like
to
I know what
Disney
you're
now.
talking about, because I'm actually completely oblivious. But
Sorry.
It's one of the better forgotten Disney films.
it's an animated thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Michael J. Fox voiced the main character.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
who's Danielle's favorite? Did she say?
Danielle, who's your favorite? Who's your favorite character in the book?
Or any of them. I don't know.
She votes for I don't know. We have one dissenting vote. Everybody else liked Vesuvius.
Because driving.
What about Anne and Thomas and Jim? Who was their favorite character?
I just asked them. They all don't know either.
Thumbs just went for more coffee.
Oh, more coffee gets a vote.
All right.
All right.
I love that character.
All right. Which was your favorite space vehicle?
Oh.
Just gonna throw out other things that weren't in the book.
Did you like the Rickshaw Crusader? Did you like the Salvation? Did you like the Valkyries that were the
Oh.
animated ships that came and crushed stuff? You
Those are mine.
you voted for the Valkyries. The Valkyries were pretty cool.
I'm big on Norse mythology, so anything involving Valkyries.
Yeah, Valkyries, and then they threw in Ragnarok, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
They brought
There were
Ragnarok
a
in.
lot of things
When was this book written?
referenced in the book of lot of different
Cultures and
cultures, genres, just a whole bunch of things that
well, yeah, and
there was
philosophical
something
and
for
religious
everyone, so.
This Ragnarok is a Norse,
It's the Norse version of the end of the world.
right? Which would make sense.
I think even the Vikings were facing the end in the end of the book. Anybody that of Norse origin was also facing the bitter end at the end of the book. What did you think about, for those of you that read that far, what did you think about Dekker basically jumping out into space to try to stop the enemy from winning?
Leia! It had to be said.
I'm not supporting that.
I will admit, I liked the book in a lot of respects, and I thought it was visually very cool to imagine Dekker falling through the atmosphere. But there was nothing in the book that ever said they ever wore spacesuits. I never caught that anywhere. And so he's out in the middle of space, free falling to Earth, somehow through the atmosphere, with just his trusty trench coat, his duster on, and maybe a mask. Maybe, because I don't remember it saying, and I was looking for it, a mask for oxygen. So that was a little hard for me to believe, him falling through and then surviving the crash landing with just his body.
No, he is the heir to the path of Neo, so his trench coat saved him.
That's what it is. He's wearing Neo's trench coat all along.
I hate those movies.
Did you hear that, Keanu, when you do the reboot? Well, does anybody have anything to wrap up? Because we've been going for probably 20 minutes, or guess, maybe?
I got footage for over that. Yeah.
Over 20 minutes, so does anybody have anything in closing they want to add? Throw in there?
Miss you.
We miss you, all the Ericksons, we miss you.
We miss you!
So basically, anybody that can see this video, whether it's posted on the Desron or Task Force or wherever it ends up getting posted, you have an option to participate and get points for participation by going in the comments and answering questions, of which Danielle is writing, correct? Danielle is going to write the questions, and if you answer the questions, or is it one of the questions or all three?
Just join in the discussion to answer questions.
Join in the discussion and answer questions, and you will get points for participation because TRMN rocks, and that's why. So thanks very much. Again, the book, Dekker's Dozen, The Last Watchman by Christopher D. Schmitz. Thanks for playing.
Well, what's the next book?
The next book is going to be Short Victorious War by Weber. It's another one of the Honor Harrington series.
All right.
All right.
All right.
We
Bye.
good?
Yeah,
Bye.
I think we're good.